This battle is about to explode. Live and let die.
It's the full preview podcast. UFC 322 stand.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to a new episode of the full preview. This is the full preview for UFC 322. This is going down on Madison Square Garden in New York, New York. Or as Aljamain Sterling calls it, like New York Stand from now on. We have 14 fights and the UFC is bringing a good one this time around. Like, not gonna lie, like, this is not about like hidden gems like other pay-per-views, like, or like sometimes I say like good matchmaking. This is a very strong lineup of fights. I'm not gonna lie when it comes to this one, man. We have 14 fights. We have 2 title fights. Both fights involve like a fighter from a lower weight class relinquishing their title and moving up. So this is obviously headlined by Makhachev moving up to welterweight to challenge Della Maddalena in a thrilling bout. And our co-main event involves Zhang Weili against Valentina Shevchenko. In a fight that is clearly for the number 1 pound for pound woman fighter currently. So it's interesting, man, and we have like good fights all around. This one is very good. I'm not going to be complaining like in other episodes. So yeah, let's get into the first fight. Why don't we get into the first fight already? Okay, your first fight of the night is a lightweight bout between Viacheslav Borshchev and Matheus Camilo. Let's begin with Borshchev. A rangy kickboxer with a dangerous left hook, Slava likes to move around on the outside, disrupting and measuring opponents with inside leg kicks while waiting for entries or counter opportunities. He's not a consistent jabber at long range, but he uses his jab effectively in exchanges, intercepting entries or tracking retreating opponents. He's at his best when he slips the initial shot behind his high guard and fires back with his powerful hooks. His signature left hook lands to the body and head with tremendous effect. A switch stance kicker, his boxing remains largely the same from southpaw, but he opens up the open side body kick against orthodox opponents. A heavy kicker, he punishes opponents circling with roundhouse kicks to all 3 levels. Defensively, he's solid, mixing a responsible high guard with measured head movement and pull counters. At times, he can be overly reactive, making him vulnerable to feints, long combinations, or mistimed reads. Strong in the clinch, he's a punishing dirty boxer from collar ties with sharp uppercuts and clean inside footwork. Wrestling has long been his Achilles heel, but years at Team Alpha Male have turned him into a capable Fear Slayer scrambler. Borshchev is well conditioned and extremely tough, but his reflexes and durability seem slightly diminished, and even his power appears to have dipped with age. Against him, we have Matheus Camilo, a promising striker out of Nova União. Camilo fights behind a stiff jab, setting up the rear leg kick and rear straight. Once he draws reactions, he opens up with counters and extended combinations. His left hook and overhand right are his main counters, and when he opens up, he rips the body with heavy hooks. Defensively sound in the Nova União mold, he mixes parries, head movement, and nimble footwork. His cagecraft can be inconsistent though, and he can occasionally get sloppy when looking for defensive clinches. He's crafty from collar ties, landing knees and elbows while off-balancing foes with footwork and trips. Owner of a solid double leg takedown against the fence, he's a competent grappler overall. He's fluid in transitions but not overly controlling from top position. When settled, he lands meaningful ground and pound though. From his back, he's dangerous, wall walking well, and using his armbar triangle series to sweep or submit. Camilo is skilled and athletic, but still developing. His toughness is clear, but questionable decision making and a lack of precision limit his power output. This opener should be a fun striking battle between 2 kickboxers who love to target the body here. So this is like body punching crew approved. Slava Klaus might not be his prime anymore, but he's still a tough out when allowed to strike freely. Camilo, seeking his first UFC win, gets a willing dance partner here. I would give Borshchev the edge in overall striking craft and shot selection, but Camilo's stiff jab could allow him to dictate the pace and exchanges. He have to stay sharp though. Borshchev still carries dangerous counter power. Camilo likely holds the wrestling advantage here, and while the Russian improved that aspect under Team Alpha Male, that area now seems to be regressing. It should be an entertaining fight, but I think the younger fighter edges out with his jab, jout, and takedown threat. So the pick is that Camilo wins a decision here. Next, we have a middleweight bout. We have a fight between Baisangur Susurkaev and Eric McConico. Let's begin with Susurkaev. A confident and undefeated kickboxer, 10-0 as a professional, Susurkaev earned his UFC contract with a high-leg front kick to the body on Contender Series. He fights with his hands low, looking to establish kicking range, while he feints with his hands and occasionally jabs. Most of his range management and long-range scoring come through leg kicks and snap kicks to the body. A very flexible kicker, he attacks all three levels with both legs using roundhouses and front kicks. Not a slouch with the hands either, Susurkaev packs power with a long 1-2 and a dangerous left hook that he also throws to the body. Flying knees are another key weapon in his arsenal. Defensively, he relies mostly on his spacing, though he will use a high elbow guard to deal with punches up close. He's most vulnerable when extending combinations, as he doesn't move his head much and tends to keep his chin high. A solid wrestler and grappler on top of it, Susurkaev is very hard to take down with quick hips in open space. In the clinch, his balance is exceptional, complemented by strong grip fighting and a heavy whizzer. When given space, he'll attack with nasty elbows and knees to discourage level changes. He can be too patient inside the clinch at times though, occasionally to the point of being passive. Susurkaev has also shown real grappling ability, using whizzer kicks and landing heavy ground and pound when he scrambles to top position. While he fights with a relaxed demeanor, he throws a lot of big strikes, which has tested his gas tank in longer fights. His main issues are his limited striking defense and his tendency to spend too much time with his back on the fence. Against him we have Eric McConico, a composed southpaw out of the MMA lab. McConico applies patient pressure, looking for moments to open up with power shots. His offense revolves around powerful rear side attacks and short tight combinations. His lead hand is versatile, he jabs, hooks, and occasionally sneaks in a long uppercut, a trademark of his gym. He mixes in kick knee and straight overhand change-ups from the rear side to keep opponents guessing. He's most dangerous when he has an opponent reacting to his feints, as he can punch off his kicks and surprise with sudden bursts. He also excels when he traps opponents against the fence, throwing heavy combinations to the body and head. Beyond his pacing, he uses lateral footwork to bait and proactively clinches to smother offense. McConico is a capable wrestler and grappler with solid athleticism. He can stall at times against the cage and lacks volume, but he's effective with trips and throws. From top position, he has solid fundamentals, mixing ground and pound with submission threats, and is especially dangerous from the back. A nimble scrambler with good first layer takedown defense and solid wall walking ability, though his grappling hasn't been tested at a high level yet. McConico is well-rounded and athletic, but lacks the tools to dictate the fight and can be too low volume at times. This should be a striking match between new hot prospect Susurkaev and a lower-tier middleweight in McConico. McConico is a suitable test for Susurkaev at this stage, I feel, as he will engage Susurkaev in the face he prefers, but he's also durable and athletic enough to make it interesting. It will be worth watching if Susurkaev's gas tank holds up, should McConico consistently target the body. Training out of a strong camp, McConico may come in with a sharp game plan and some grappling wrinkles to surprise the Russian. However, Susurkaev appears faster, the heavier hitter, and more dynamic overall. He will likely get a first round knockout, and that's the pick here. We have a strawweight bout next, as Angela Hill faces off against Fatima Kline. So let's begin with Angela Hill. 40 years old and a 33-fight veteran, Hill has spent her entire career, aside from her debut, in the UFC. Don't be fooled by her record, as even at this stage she remains a relevant player in the 115 division. Hill has a well-rounded game based on pace and transitions. She likes moving around in open space behind numerous feints to set up her boxing combinations and a variety of kicks. Her snap kick to the body and counter right hand are some of her best weapons at range. In closer range, she's good at landing counter knees and tight right hooks, sometimes off-color ties. She's constantly moving her head side to side and is good at slipping shots on the first layer. Hill is at her best when mixing phases, using her striking to open up clinches and takedown attempts. Inside the clinch, she's at her most damaging with heavy knees, sharp elbows, and loopy punches during breaks. A solid offensive wrestler, Hill has good timing on her level changes and can finish doubles and singles. From top position, she's not very controlling as she prioritizes punishing opponents in transition and during get-ups. But she has threatened with the guillotine multiple times to improve position and even finish a fight with it once. Defensive wrestling can still be an issue against high-level grapplers, and while her submission defense is very good, she can be stalled by heavy top players. Hill remains a good fighter, but age has taken a toll on her physicality, and she plays a demanding game. Against her, we have Fatima Kline. A long and aggressive, well-rounded fighter, Kline comes from an extensive grappling background, but is now well-versed in all phases of mixed martial arts. An active striker, Kline uses her footwork to stay in opponents' faces, pot-shotting with long kicks to all three levels and sitting down on her punches. A stiff jab allows her to draw shots, fade back, and counter with the 3-2 or 2-3. While Kline looks to move her head on the outside, her reactive defense revolves around leanbacks and ducks. This is complemented by an active guard, parrying shots and blocking kicks, and she's a willing counterpuncher too. Kline is also a transition-based fighter, actively looking for clinches, usually driving to the fence to work nasty knees and land big strikes during breaks. Her offensive wrestling isn't very polished, but she's strong and her strike open up opportunities for trips, throws, and level changes against the fence. From top position, ground and pound is her specialty, as she flows through control positions before attacking limbs to open up strikes. She's particularly dangerous with elbows, both from static positions and when disrupting transitions. From her back, she's a very good scrambler, well versed in a variety of guards and leg entries to create movements and sweeps. Kline is well put together, tough, and conditioned. Her only apparent flaws so far are the rote nature of her striking and the lack of nuance in her wrestling. So, once again, Hill faces a rising prospect here. This time she meets Kline, who just like Hill shines when mixing the martial arts. It is a tough draw for the veteran as Kline is 15 years younger and noticeably bigger. The fact that Kline is a well-rounded threat also means Hill doesn't have an easy path to victory here. Kline is still somewhat raw as a striker though, and Hill might be able to use her superior craft and layer her transitions to get it done. But the deck feels too stacked against her here. I think Kline is too much for the aging fighter, so the pick is that Kline wins a decision. Next we go to featherweight, as Chepe Mariscal faces off against Pat Sabatini. Let's begin with Chepe. A well-rounded former judoka, Mariscal has an offbeat quality to his striking in a good way. He likes to operate in open space, setting up offense with feints and throwaways, looking for big shots in the form of loopy punches and snappy kicks. He's flexible with his approach, able to execute any combination of pressure, outfighting, and leaving countering to varying degrees of proficiency. He's good at adapting to reactions and can extend combinations on the fly, attacking all three levels. Despite his aggressiveness and willingness to exchange, he's solid defensively, moving his head and feet well even during exchanges. His volume can be inconsistent at times as he lacks reliable control options at range though. He shines in transitions, blending the pocket and clinch phases and landing shots while flowing or during breaks. As a judoka, the clinch is obviously a strong point. He has adapted his throws and trips to MMA brilliantly. His transition savvy also shows up on the ground, where he's very good at blending ground and pound with rise and punishing get-ups with big strikes. Mariscal is both very hard to take down and also a creative scrambler. He will fight from all positions, looking to create space with elevations and leg lock entries. And his submission defense has been impeccable despite his level of competition. Chepe has good cardio and is very tough. His biggest issue is the lack of tools to control the pace of a fight consistently take cover with his best qualities, as he often seems content to fight whatever fight is given to him and the pace that his opponent wants. Against him we have Pat Sabatini, a stocky dynamic grappler. Sabatini usually likes to move on the outside behind consistent level changes, his jab and lock quick kicks, looking for spots to shot takedowns. to shoot takedowns. He switches stances often and isn't afraid to throw big hooks from both sides. He likes to use stance switches to cover ground and disguise entries, taking advantage of his ever-present takedown threat. He adds variety in the form of kicks to all three levels and the occasional spinning attack at range. His defense relies largely on his ability to change levels and grab clinches, and while this is limited, it plays directly into his game. Sabatini is a savvy transitional fighter, quick to throw big hooks during breaks and capable of shooting a takedown at any moment during an exchange. A very strong wrestler, Sabatini has a quick level change and clean finishing mechanics to his double leg and single leg in open space. He can also work takedowns against the fence, usually hooking a leg to get to the back. From top, he's suffocating with heavy control, strong passing, and constant ground and pound. His blend of wrestling rights and traditional BJJ position make him a handful for anyone. Submission grappling is consequently a strong point. With 13 career submission wins, the rear naked choke is his most reliable finisher. But he's also very well versed in leg locks. When Sabatini finds himself on his back, he's a very good scrambler with an active guard and aggressive leg lock entries to sweep or get up. Sabatini is well conditioned and well put together, but his one-note approach can mean he often needs to dominate to win. This is a rematch of their fight from 7 years ago, a wild bout where Mariscal took a split decision. Neither fighter has changed dramatically, but both are polished versions of their younger selves now. Sabatini has improved his top control and open space wrestling, becoming more focused as a specialist, while Mariscal has developed all around and is the type of fighter who will take the fight wherever he's challenged. While Sabatini's improved top control could be the kryptonite and earn him a clear win this time around, I feel like Chepe is too good of a scrambler and likely to survive any sketchy situations. His takedown defense and striking have also improved, and he's more composed than ever before. I think Chepe will be a more damaging fighter as the fight goes on, especially later rounds, so that's why I'm picking Chepe Mariscal by decision here. And now we go to middleweight as we have a fight between Gerald Meerschaert and Kyle Daukaus. So let's begin with Meerschaert. A veteran of 57 fights, Meerschaert is a southpaw BJJ specialist. On the feet, he fights well behind the 1-2 and a very heavy left kick that he throws to the body and legs. Despite his plodding footwork, he moves well on the outside and can move opponents into shots, finding counter lefts and a wide right hook. When controlling the initiative, he's effective at leaning back and pivoting to avoid offense, but his reactions and mechanics can fall apart when pushed back with long combinations. Meerschaert is also decently strong in the clinch and can surprise with wide hooks and elbows during breaks. He can surprise with react takedowns when moving opponents into shots, and he can also find trips inside the clinch. While solid defending takedowns for the most part, he can be surprised in open space when being set up with strikes. He can also get reverse going for takedowns inside the clinch. From top position, he has very good control and passing, helped with damaging ground and pound. He's an opportunistic submission threat from basically any position on the mat, with his guillotine and rear naked choke being his most trustworthy finishers. From his back, he's good at creating movement and finding sweeps, with his deep half game being of note. Age has become a factor for Meerschaert, whose lack of speed has been further affected by his reaction time. Cardio has also been hit and miss in the later part of his career. Against him, we have Kyle Daukaus, a long southpaw grappler. It seems like Daukaus has polished his game since his first UFC run. He plays a composed southpaw game on the field with an active jab. He selects his targets well based on his angles and throws with good form without compromising his stance. Head kicks and punching off kicks are of note, and he has surprisingly fast hands from up close. His defense relies on spacing and blocking. He remains responsibly, but it can kill his momentum, though he has improved his first layer slips and parries. Level changes into clinches offer another layer of defense and connect him to his A game. Daukaus is dangerous inside the clinch, using his long frame to land knees and elbows, and has a good eye for strikes during breaks. He has a variety of takedowns to his disposal, but his most reliable one is his double leg against the fence, usually grinding to connect his long arms. Top position is where Daukaus shines, as he feeds his opponents on a steady diet of ground and pound while working passes with solid control. Submissions are his bread and butter, with the rear naked choke and the darts being his finishing moves. That's why he's the darts knight, right? He can be a bit too keen on jumping into front headlocks, chokes, conceding top position though, and his sweep based get up game can be on the slow side. Daukaus' durability and conditioning are right above average, but he's very tough mentally. Striking defense and at times decision making are his notable flaws. This is pretty much a mirror match between long southpaw grapplers. Daukaus is 5 years younger than GM3 and is riding the momentum of a knockout against Michel Pereira. On the flip side, Meerschaert is on a rough 3-fight losing streak, as it seems like age is finally catching up to the Killcliff product. He still carries power, and the slow-footed Daukaus is probably a more forgiving matchup than some of the later ones. And if the Dark Knight is willing to pull a guard with front headlocks chokes, he might find himself in a world of trouble here. GM3 is more than capable of top gaming his younger version here and inflict damage doing so, but I think the youth, coupled with the close stance matchup favoring Daukaus, will be too much to overcome for the veteran. I think that Daukaus wins a decision here. We move to bantamweight for our next fight, as we have a fight between Malcolm Wellmaker and Cody Haddon. Let's begin with Wellmaker, an athletic freak with a lethal right hand. Wellmaker fights extremely relaxed out of either stance, pressuring with his presence and pot-shotting with body and leg attacks. He fights out of a tall stance, and despite having good mobility, he prefers to plant his feet to deliver power. Wellmaker can deliver power on all strikes. Of note are his leg kicks and body kicks. And his right hand, which he usually prefers to throw as a counter lead hook, has been his money maker. Wellmaker has tremendous vision and distance management, and that plays into his countering and defense. His defense is largely reactive and aided by his good reflexes. He has shown the ability to check and catch kicks, and defaults to leaning back behind a shoulder roll looking for spots to counter. He has good footwork, usually timing pivots and side steps to avoid or counter opposition. While he can put shot well at range, he can expose himself when leading with big shots, especially with his hands. Wellmaker is physically strong and looks to have a well put together clinching and grappling game. He doesn't have the wow factor that he has with his striking, but he's athletic, composed, and has solid fundamentals. Solid top control, he likes to go for ground pound, usually controlling the wrists, and is sticky from the back take. That side of his game has not been tested much against high-level competition though. Wellmaker's attributes are off the charts, and his composure only augments this. But there seems to be a lack of depth to his game, and while he looks well conditioned, it seems like he gets less dangerous as fights progresses. Against him we have Cody Haddon, a boxer and grappler. Big and strong for the division, Haddon looks to stalk opponents down behind his high guard, being aggressive with his hands. He opens up with long combinations, the left hook being his best punch. But also look out for his jab as his punishing tool during breaks and entries. The ability to switch stances, kicks decently well, and vary his targets and shot selection allows him to string together volume against the cage without being predictable. His bodywork and uppercut are notable in this sense as they give him attrition damage and the ability to punish reactions. He's at his best when he gets consistent pressure to let go with his hands against the fence. And he has very good eyes inside the pocket, which allow him to evade or roll with a lot of shots. We got a point though that he relies on proactivity for defense and can be open for counters during entries or when extending combinations past a certain point. A strong wrestler, Haddon is physically strong in the clinch and well versed in transitions, finding grips well and mixing strikes in between and during breaks. He's a crafty scrambler and mad wrestler with heavy hips. From top position, he uses ground pound well to open up positions, with the rear naked choke being his submission of choice. Conditioning and toughness are some of his best qualities, and he has tremendous ability to fight tired. Haddon has decent pop but can lack a wow factor to take over fights, and he can get carried away with offense, but he makes up for it with pace and grit. Rising Wellmaker meets fellow Contender Series product Cody Haddon here. This looks like a classic destroyer versus builder fight using the terms of my boy Dan Tom. Wellmaker is a monster, especially early, as his vision, accuracy, and power make him an imminent threat. He does well in the in-between to make those finishing instances happen. Haddon, for his part, is an aggressive boxer from the get-go and is not afraid to exchange early, but he gets better as fights go on, as he uses his long combinations and good shot selection. In the case of any grappling taking place, I think Wellmaker is more dynamic and can make stuff happen, but I give the overall grappling edge to Haddon here. It feels like Haddon needs to take Wellmaker to deep waters to win this one. He will be in danger early, especially with the way he opens up with his combinations. I wouldn't be surprised to see another Wellmaker round 1 KO, but I think that Haddon survives the early storm and rallies to win a decision with his more nuanced game. So the pick is Haddon. We have a flyweight fight next, as we have a face-off between Erin Blanchfield and Tracy Cortez. So let's begin with Blanchfield, an athletic grappler with improving striking. Blanchfield likes to move in open space behind lead shoulder feints and level changes. She gives a high output and is usually aggressive, not afraid to pressure if opponents concede the back foot. Erin often sits down on big punches when countering, while swarming with quick, lighter combinations when leading. Her decent hooks are complemented by an active lead leg that she uses to kick all 3 levels and mix in between combinations. Blanchfield stays present during exchanges, showing good first layer head movement and solid footwork. However, she can lose her footing when countering during extended exchanges, and that's where her lack of depth can show. An avid transitional fighter, Blanchfield often changes levels to close the distance. Her level change isn't especially deep, but her timing and composure let her shoot from strong positions. She finishes most takedowns inside the clinch, climbing after the initial shot, though she can complete open space doubles if given the chance. If her takedowns are defended, she's quick to attack with knees from collar ties or elbows and big punches during breaks. She has a versatile clinch game, but her bread and butter is the polished throw or hip throw variations against the fence. Her top control is the A side of her game. She combines tremendous control with fluid transitions. She's a strong passer, favors the crucifix, and is a solid back taker in scrambles. She has wins via rear naked choke, guillotine, and arm attacks. Blanchfield is athletic, well-conditioned, and knows how to win fights, but her lack of depth in striking and wrestling can hold her back when forced to stay standing. Against her, we have Tracy Cortez, an athletic, compact wrestle boxer. Cortez has shown steady striking improvement over her last few fights. Good boxing fundamentals and sharp awareness during exchanges let her capitalize on her natural pop and takedown threat. She attacks with short combinations, entering off feints or leg kicks, and looks to angle off once she's done. Her right hand carries the most authority, but she consistently closes the door with the left hook at the end of combinations. Her footwork is solid, she circles well, and occasionally gives southpaw looks for entries. She could benefit from a more consistent jab though, as she often relies on feints and big movements to dictate exchanges. Her head movement is inconsistent, but her habit of angling off and her ability to counter in tight mitigate that somewhat. The clinch and wrestling phases offer her more defensive options too. As a wrestler, Cortez is at her best, finding open space shots in transitions, showing a quick level change and solid finishes to both doubles and singles. Inside the clinch, she's usually patient, riding to create takedown opportunities, though she can land good punches on the breaks. From top position, Cortez is controlling and maintains a heavy base, denying get-ups with strong rights to reestablish control. Despite her athleticism, Cortez hasn't been a consistent finisher against higher level opposition, which can cost her when falling behind. Well conditioned and tough, her main issue remains her lack of finishing danger and some polished gaps in striking defense. We have another rematch here, just like Chepe versus Sabatini. This one is 6 years after their first meeting. They fought on Invicta, I think. I saw the fight earlier, but I don't remember the organization. Blanchfield rebounded from her first UFC loss to Manon Fiorot with a convincing 5-round decision over Rose Namajunas. Cortez, for her part, lost her own UFC 0 to Namajunas in a 5-rounder that she took on just a week's notice. So we gotta consider that when assessing that fight. But she then bounced back with a convincing win over Viviane Araújo. Both are grapplers with development striking, so this could come down to who gets on top or who wins the kickboxing. Blanchfield has been the more dangerous of the two in the UFC, especially with her top control and finishing instincts. But Cortez is more on par with like Namajunas or Tayla Santos in terms of grappling. And with a full camp, I would say that she's probably the best wrestler of the bunch there. I feel Cortez has key advantages here in her more polished boxing and stronger fundamental wrestling, but Blanchfield is more likely to push the pace and keep finding ways to create momentum. I think that Cortez has the skills and physicality, but I think Blanchfield's urgency and persistence might be enough to get revenge in this rematch. So I think that Blanchfield wins a decision here. And we're back at middleweight for a fight between Roman Kopylov and Gregory Rodrigues. So Kopylov, a southpaw kickboxer that likes to operate in open space behind a stiff jab. Kopylov feints and good understanding of rhythm, coupled with his considerable power and speed, usually allow him to dictate the pace and exchanges of a fight. He possesses a sharp 1-2 and a good arsenal of powerful kicks, especially from the left side, but he also scores consistently with a lead outside leg kick in open stance matchups. He's good at setting kicks with punches and can also punch off kicks. When he gets comfortable, he puts tight, powerful combos with his hands, attacking both levels with precision and good positioning inside the pocket to remain safe. And this only makes his potent kicking game more dangerous. His defense mostly relies on distance management, even though he's good at parrying and hiding behind his shoulders when he has the initiative. He has been vulnerable when fleeing exchanges, and while he can move around well, he concedes ground somewhat easily and his circling is wide, making him a lot less effective when pushed back. Years of training in Dagestan has turned his formerly weak wrestling into a solid point of his game, especially defensively. He fights grips well and digs for underhooks, but he becomes more vulnerable during prolonged chained attacks, and his defense lessens when tired. But he can also surprise with takedowns of his own during transitions, having a quick level change. His ground and pound is also dangerous when he finds himself on top. Explosive, quick, and very tough. Cardio isn't the issue it was in the past, but his ability to fight on the back foot and nuance to his wrestling remain notable issues. Gregory Rodrigues on the other corner. Aggressive and well-rounded, Rodrigues is dangerous in multiple areas. A heel cliff and Henry Hoof fighter, Rodrigues is at his best moving forward, using his stiff jab and solid footwork to back people up and open up with powerful combinations. A fan of posting with his jab to measure and unload massive right hands, Hovokov also has a stiff but cloven left hook that he can use to go to the body as well. His defense is somewhat shallow, he relies a lot on exited range and trusts his high guard parries and frames to keep him safe during exchanges, but he can get wild and over-aggressive and he has been countered when getting too excited with his offense. He moves his head on the outside looking to close the gap, but he rarely does the same once inside an exchange. The clinch is a strong suit as Rodrigues is proficient with a variety of throws and is also dangerous with elbows and knees against the fence and during transitions. Also a solid wrestler, Rodrigues has a quick level change that he can mix well with his striking at range. And despite not being a nuanced chain wrestler, he can come up to the clinch and push to the fence if he's denied to the legs. Not only a striker inside the clinch, Hovokov is well versed in trips and throws, both with his man against the fence and in open space. A good grappler, Rodrigues is a solid scrambler and has strong top position with aggressive passing. Hard ground and pound, and despite being mostly a finishing threat with strikes, his BJJ black belt is still apparent and he will look for submissions. Rodrigues has good cardio and can fight well tired in case of things getting out of hand, but his chin and defense inside the pocket has been his biggest flaws. His recovery is very good and he has heart and toughness for days. So this one is a guaranteed action fight that pits the aggression, pressure, and possible grappling threat of Rodrigues against the precision, speed, and craft in open space from Kopylov. It feels like whoever takes the initiative here should win. Kopylov is a lot more likely to take the back foot, but he's also the better striker in open space. Both guys carry big power, with Kopylov having a durability edge, but Rodrigues has the grappling to survive scares and seal the deal if he gets a knockdown. There's not a lot of footage of Rodrigues against southpaws, but he never really looked lost when facing a lefty, and he has strong rear side attacks to help with his pressure. I think that he can mimic the old school parts of Paulo Costa's game, to not rely on open space reads to be successful here. And his grappling edge should allow him to intimidate Kopylov easier than other opponents. Kopylov is fast and more nuanced in neutral exchanges. The chances of him blindsiding Hovokov and putting him out are not small at all. But I think the pressure and transitional game of Hovokov allow him to win here, so my pick is that Gregory Rodrigues wins a decision. Before moving to the main card, remember guys that we have available merch over here. Just head out, links should be around the video right now. And you can get original merch designed by me about combat sports. Now on the screen we have the body punching crew design. It's fucking fight night or fight week neck crew. And we have this user checks leg kicks. Check out the other designs. It's everything on the fourth wall store. Products should be like right down in the video, so thank you for that. And we'll be moving up to the main card finally. Okay, I was wrong because we still have one bout on the prelims. We have our feature bout of the prelims, and we stay at middleweight division because we have a fight between Nickal and Rodolfo Vieira. So let's begin with Nickal. Very good athlete, a prodigious wrestler who has adapted impressively to submission grappling so far. Nickal looks like at least a competent striker on the feet with big power and good sense of timing and distance. He also understands the interplay between his takedown threat and striking fairly well. That said, there's still some disconnection between his striking and wrestling. His entries haven't looked especially clean yet. His striking defense is basic but not terrible. He manages spaces well, covers up, and even fires counters at the right moments. Being tough in open space and stall against the fence have been recurring moments where Nickal looks less effective. Outside of that, he has shown brilliance in chain wrestling exchanges. Up until the Paul Craig fight, he proved to be a tremendous finisher, both through transition and with powerful ground strikes. He's very good at punishing get-ups, flowing from rights, and mat returns into back takes or dominant top positions. He tends to finish with either the rear naked choke or the arm triangle, playing a clever change-up between the two. His limitations and lack of depth became apparent against Paul Craig and Rainer the Reader. He seemed hesitant to push the pace or take risks against the long, awkward Craig. Engaging in a tepid kickboxing match, he won through key moments rather than dominance. And against the Reader, he showed how his game can fall apart when he can simply wrestle himself out of trouble. More concerningly, he revealed a level of fragility we hadn't seen before, wielding under body shots. Nickal still has great attributes, but his cardio and toughness are now legitimate question marks against elite opposition. Against him, we have Rodolfo Vieira. A legendary BJJ black belt, Vieira has rounded out his MMA game considerably. A developing boxer, his biggest barrier on the feet had long been confidence, I think. Though he has shown glimpses of solid fundamentals in past fights, he often looks stiff and uncertain in losses to Chris Curtis and Andrew Petrosky. Despite having solid moments in both bouts, against Tracy and Gore, however, he displayed a new level of comfort, fighting confidently behind his jab and building layers from there. It was a meat and potatoes approach, but he strung his combinations together well, mixing in bodywork and leg kicks. While his defensive reactions are still somewhat mechanical, he moved his head preemptively and his footwork has improved. Despite those gains on the feet, Vieira still prefers to take the fight to the mat, and he's a capable wrestler to make that happen. His timing has improved, he picks his entries well, though he could still blend in more transitional attacks. He has a solid level change into a double leg in open space, and when denied, he can drive with the single or high crush to the fence to work from there. There isn't much depth to his chain wrestling against the cage, but he's strong and he only needs small openings to seize control. His ability to take the back during transitions is especially dangerous. From top, he's a heavy passer who has integrated his BJJ seamlessly into MMA. His finishing sequence often comes down to the rear naked choke and triangle changeup, both of which he executes at a world-class level. Vieira is athletic and powerful, while his gas tank isn't elite, it's serviceable. His biggest flaw remained the lack of connection between phases and a somewhat limited takedown arsenal. So Nickal looks for redemption after his hype train was derailed by the Reader. Vieira enters off a career best striking performance against Gore. This one could largely play out on the feet unless Nickal decides to take it to the mat, but considering ATT's typical game planning, that seems unlikely to me. Bo Nickal should have a noticeable speed advantage here, on top of being a southpaw and the more natural striker. Vieira, however, comes in with a more polished and sustainable striking game, and he will likely enjoy the comfort of not fearing the takedown too much. Rodolfo might not be as tall as the Reader, but he's still a big, strong middleweight who could wear on Nickal in clinch exchanges, I feel. He will need to be cautious of Nickal's strike punches and kicks from range though. It is a risky, near coin flip fight in my opinion, but I think that Vieira can keep his composure and gradually take over as the bout progresses, using his boxing and size to edge it. So I'm taking the risk, and I think that Rodolfo Vieira wins a decision. And now we get to the main card for real. We have a lightweight bout between Beneil and Benoit Saint-Denis. Where is okay? So as you guys know, main card, no profiles for the fighters. We just get straight into the prediction and the matchup, the breakdown. So this lightweight matchup has some mirror match qualities to it, as both guys are aggressive southpaws, strong in the clinch, and primarily grapplers. The veteran Dariush has long been defined by his awkward mechanics, but there's a lot of craft behind his game in all areas. And while he's capable of hurting and finishing opponents on the feet and inside the clinch, his grappling remains his A game, among the best in the division. He's also a tremendous defensive grappler, having completely shut down Gamrot's game and reversing the only takedown Oliveira managed on him. He's coming off a win against Renato Moicano, who dominated the Frenchman on the ground during the first round of their encounter. Saint-Denis entered this one after a victory over high prospect Mauricio Hufi, a fight where he showed some newfound composure on the feet, I think. But it was still a matchup where he could do what he always does, pressure his man to the cage with open side body kicks, attacking the clinch, hunt for takedowns. This time he finds himself in a completely different dynamic, as this is a close stance matchup and grappling Dariush is anything but easy. In fact, Saint-Denis might want to be careful about ending up on his back, as Dariush is an underrated offensive wrestler. The Frenchman does come in as the younger fighter, bringing physicality and pace to the table. He might not have access to some of his usual tactics against a fellow southpaw, but the shorter range could play to his advantage here. His entrance when dealing with close stance can be messy, but he's still dangerous, especially if he's able to swarm Dariush into the clinch with a barrage of elbows and knees. That said, Dariush remains the more nuanced fighter pretty much everywhere the fight takes place, and while his gas tank isn't outstanding, his energy management and ability to fight tired are superior to anything Saint-Denis has shown so far. A joust-based victory wouldn't shock me here, and Dariush is obviously past his best, but I'm not ready to pick against him in a matchup that favors him like this one, so I'm going with Dariush by decision. Now we have the first of 3 welterweight matchups in the main card, as we have a very interesting fight between Leon Edwards and Carlos Prates. This is crossroads at welterweight here, as former champion Leon Edwards, now on a 2-fight skid, faces Carlos Prates, coming off a knockout of the year contender. After a career best performance to retain his title against Kamaru Usman and a convincing enough win over an overmatched Colby Covington, Leon has since looked flat. He was easily pressured to defense and wrestled by Belal Mohamed, then conceded takedowns before getting submitted by Sean Brady. Edwards finds himself in a more favorable stylistic matchup this time. While Prates can pressure effectively, he doesn't bring the relentless wrestling pace Leon's last 2 opponents did. That should allow Edwards to be more comfortable using his open space clinching to control the direction of the fight. This is a close stance matchup between southpaws. just like the previous fight. Something Leon has seen before against Colby, Covington, Nate Diaz, and the switch hitting Kamaru Usman. Prates, meanwhile, is coming off a win over another southpaw in Jeff Neal. Edward himself switches stances often and will likely give Prates different looks throughout the fight. And Leon also appears to have the grappling edge here and the takedown ability to make it count. That said, Prates has been notoriously difficult to take down in his UFC run. The only fighter to do it was Ian Machado Gary, in what was a flat showing overall for Prates. The good news for Prates from that fight is that he proved not only a sturdy wrestler, but also strong at scrambling up when grounded. The bad news is that Leon is skill-wise more similar to Gary than to any of Prates' other opponents. Edwards doesn't have the same ease moving on the outside as the Irishman did, which was key to frustrating Prates, to be fair. But he does have the feints and shot selection to hopefully, for him, mute the Brazilian's initiative and volume. The concern for Leon is his own tendency to be low output, which makes it risky to try and edge slow rounds against a huge hitter here, especially one who can generate power with a variety of weapons. Prates is also dangerous and damaging inside the clinch, an area where Edwards usually thrives. It is a very intriguing matchup with both men bringing tools the other might struggle with. On paper, Edwards still has the skill and athleticism to beat anyone, including Prates, but this isn't a free win even if he looks sharp here. Given his confidence issues and Prates' momentum, plus the lessons learned from the Gary fight, I lean toward the Brazilian here. I'm picking Prates to get a second round knockout. And we stay at welterweight for the next one. We have a fight between Sean Brady and Michael Morales. So we've got another classic striker versus grappler matchup here as young phenom Michael Morales faces off against Sean Brady. Morales remains undefeated and is coming off a main event win over the aging Gilbert Burns. Brady lost his unbeaten record to former champion Belal Mohamed, but has since bounced back, now riding a 3-fight winning streak, with victories over Gastelum, a dominant 5-round decision over the aforementioned Burns, and a submission win against former champion Leon Edwards that we just talked about. This marks a big step up in competition for the Ecuadorian, while Brady has already had a taste of the division's elite. Morales has tremendous attributes. He's long, athletic, with a solid jab and a powerful leg kick, forming the backbone of his striking game. He has a natural sense of fight direction and composure, but despite his strong fundamentals, he hasn't shown much depth yet. Even in wins over experienced opponents, he often relies on frustrating them with his physical gifts, like he did against Matheus and Griffin, who were stuck at the end of his jab, or he's found the early finish, as this was the case against Burns and Magny, his highest profile opponents. Brady wants to combat to Belal's pace, but it seems to have been a learning experience as he's since brought a higher output style to the cage. His confidence in striking has improved too, leading to a more dangerous transition game backed by his trademark strength. For Brady, the key is closing the distance, as Morales stands 2 inches taller and enjoys a staggering 6.5 inch reach advantage. Brady is not a bad striker, and his improvements are clear, but Morales has the physical tools and looks like the more natural and dangerous striker in open space. While Morales has shown flashes of grappling ability, Brady is top tier once the fight hits the mat. His style is perfectly suited to exploit the tendencies of an athletic young scrambler too. Morales didn't show many tools to wrestle off the cage against Magny, often relying on patience and strength and balance to create space. Unless he has improved dramatically since then, which is possible, that won't be enough against Brady's generic wrestling and control on the mat. Morales landing an early KO or using his athleticism and reach to keep Brady off him isn't out of the question, but I need to see him handle this level of grappling. Part of a complete coherent game backed by equal athleticism, and that's exactly what Brady brings. I'm picking Sean Brady to win via second round submission. And with that, we get to our co-main event. Zhang Weili moves up to flyweight to challenge Valentina Shevchenko. This is the first of two championship fights featuring a challenger coming up as a former champion from the division below. Weili is on a dominant run, coming off an impressive victory over Tatiana Suarez, where she overcame early adversity to take over. Valentina looked like she was losing a step in her trilogy against Alexa Grasso, but she actually improved as the fights went on, and she reasserted her dominance by beating rising contender Manon Fiorot in a standout performance. As always, this brings the question about the weight class change. Weili is a decently sized strawweight, but not a huge one. She does, however, have the next level athleticism you want to see from a fighter moving up to face a larger opponent. Valentina herself isn't the biggest flyweight, and she has lost some of her exceptional athletic gifts with time. But we have to remember she dominated inside the clinch against former strawweight champions Joanna Jędrzejczyk and Jessica Andrade. I'm not going to delve too deep into the technical nuances for this one, since I have a bias here, because I was decently involved with one of the camps. So I don't think I'm qualified to talk objectively about this one. I will say a few things here. I feel that Valentina is a complicated matchup for Weili on the feet in open space. Even now, that she has lost a step, she likely has better distance control, tighter mechanics, and cleaner footwork. For Weili, success hangs on pressure and grappling, either individually or ideally combined. Valentina has been prone to bad decisions when pushed against the fence. And she hasn't been tested much against nuanced wrestling against the fence either, but she was taken down in transitions by Alexa Grasso, something that Weili does well. While she's a solid grappler, her get-ups can be very limited, especially outside of transitional moments. If Valentina does land on top, Weili is the more resourceful grappler and can generate scrambles, so we're just gonna leave it at that for this one. Not gonna say much. So I gotta pick for my team here, right? So we're going with Weili by decision here, and we'll just leave it at that. And with that, we get to our main event, the biggest fight of the night. Islam Makhachev relinquishes his title, moves up to 170, and challenges Jack Della Maddalena, the newly crowned champ. In broad strokes, this is a striker versus grappler matchup, but things get interesting when you consider that Makhachev more than held his own on the feet against the likes of Volkanovski, Oliveira, Dustin Poirier. While Della Maddalena has been taken down in the past, he has shown high-level scrambling ability, even in clutch moments like he did against Burns and Beneil to win the title. Islam has shown composure under fire during striking exchanges and knows how to leverage his takedown threat to land strikes and find counters. Jack Della showed tremendous anti-wrestling with proactive tactics, using his footwork and level changes to deny Beneil clean opportunities to shoot. But he was still taken down eventually, having to rely on his ace up his sleeve, his scrambling ability to turn things around. One thing to consider is that Volkanovski has been the most successful defensive scrambler in the sport lately when trying to get fights back to his feet against Islam, and he shares his grappling coach with Della Maddalena in the renowned Craig Jones. The Australian already showed the pros and cons of his game against a smaller, superior grappler with a speed advantage when he faced Gilbert Burns. Maddalena was surprised a few times by his big single shots, but his defense and shield held up well, and his outfighting looked far more sophisticated against Beneil, to be fair to him. This also applies to his anti-wrestling. While he was easily taken down by Burns and Hafez with shots in open space, his footwork and anti-wrestling tactics reached a new level when he won the title. Jack also showed improved takedown defense against the fence, with more emphasis on pummeling, fighting hands, and getting his feet underneath him. And this was against a bigger and stronger wrestler in Beneil compared to Burns. JDM's primary stance is southpaw, but he's a certified switch hitter. Islam, for his part, stays faithful to his southpaw stance, but has looked comfortable using double attacks and backstep counters in open stance matchups. He also looked more like a traditional boxer when he fought fellow southpaw in Dustin Poirier, which means he should have answers and ideas for both of JDM's looks. The X factor here is that Islam is moving up, obviously, and we don't know how that will affect him. JDM is more than a decently sized welterweight and is likely to have a size advantage over Makhachev, who was on the larger side of lightweight. The rumor is that Islam put on a good amount of size moving up, but we don't know how that affects his speed and stamina. Some fighters get faster with extra muscle and get a relative power bump in the heavy division, but others get weighted down by the new mass. Same with cardio, some maintain or even improve their gas tank thanks to the caloric surplus, while others tire more quickly moving around more weight. Assuming Islam looks like himself, he has a very good shot at making the fight miserable for JDM, especially early. He's simply a better wrestler than anyone Della has faced before, and it's unlikely he's physically behind in this matchup. On the other hand, Jack brings a style on the feet that can be problematic for the Dagestani, with his nuanced footwork and control of the initiative, not to mention the serious power of the Australian. Islam has struggled with body shots in the past, but he has been consistent in countering them. But Jack Della is a more natural body puncher than either Poirier or Volkanovski, and he's also the longer fighter here. That is likely to bother Makhachev, who is used to, at worst, having leg parity. Here he faces the 1-inch taller Maddalena with a 2.5-inch reach advantage, owner of very straight punches and a punishing front kick to the body. This is very hard to predict, as most fights are when someone moves up to a weight class for the first time, but assuming both look like themselves, I've got to side with Della Maddalena. Overall size advantage, comfort on the feet, Craig Jones scouting, and his final X factor, his cardio. Islam has more than adequate stamina, finishing Poirier in the 5th, but he clearly fatigues at a steady clip. He usually becomes less effective with takedowns as fight go on, unless he's mauling his opponents. Meanwhile, JDM showed in the Beneil fight that he can fight on the back foot and fight takedowns with impressive volume for 25 minutes. And he did that in this very same weight class. Islam might find success early, probably putting JDM in very bad positions, but I think the Australian takes over late to win a decision, and that's my final pick here. And that's the pay-per-view. We have a lot of good fights here. Let's do a super quick recap here. And I'll tell you my thoughts about all of the fights very quickly. The opener is Viacheslav Borshchev against Matheus Camilo. I think that Camilo is going to be like the younger fighter. He can compete with Borshchev with the striking, maybe even taking him down, so I'm taking Camilo. We have Susurkaev against McConico. I feel like Susurkaev is being set up to win here, and I expect him to get the early knockout. But it could be interesting if it goes long. Angela Hill versus Fatima Kline. It's like Hill fighting like a younger version of herself, and I think it's kind of rough for her. Hill might be able to do something, but I'm going with Fatima Kline here. Chepe Mariscal and Pat Sabatini get a rematch after 7 years. First one was won by Chepe Mariscal, and I think he will do it again. He will do more damage and will be able to scramble out of danger early from Sabatini. Gerald Meerschaert versus Kyle Daukaus, another one of those like mirror matches of guy versus younger version of that guy. And again, I gotta go with the younger version. I think that Kyle Daukaus can match like Gerald Meerschaert pretty much everywhere at this stage. He's the younger guy. I feel like he's more durable, probably better cardio at this stage, so gotta go with him. Malcolm Wellmaker versus Cody Haddon, a very cool fight. Wellmaker obviously the favorite to win with the first round knockout, but I'm taking the risk. I'm saying that Cody Haddon is going to take over here as the fight goes on, and I'm picking him. Erin Blanchfield versus Tracy Cortez. Maybe a stiff kickboxing match on the feet, maybe cool scrambles. Also a rematch, this one 6 years after the fact. I think that Blanchfield just fights harder and just going to win on volume here against Tracy. We have Kopylov versus Gregory Rodrigues, a very cool action fight at middleweight. I think that Rodrigues could die on the first round for sure, but if he pressures, I think this is his fight to win. he can mix the takedowns, he can put Kopylov against the fence, and he kind of falls apart. So for sure, I'm picking Hovokop here. We have Bo Nickal against Rodolfo Vieira. This one feels very close. Would be very interesting to see if they grapple, but I don't think they are going to grapple. Bo Nickal is obviously like way faster, a more natural striker than Rodolfo. Another one that Bo Nickal has like a big chance of like winning early, easy. But if it goes long, I've been liking the striking developments of Vieira. I'm taking the risk here. I know it's not a popular pick, but I'm picking Rodolfo here. Another one of those like mirror matches in Beneil Dariush versus Benoit Saint-Denis, but I'm picking the older guy this time around. I just think that he's a lot more crafty everywhere. If he loses, it's because he's old, but I feel like Beneil Dariush a better fighter than Benoit Saint-Denis. Leon Edwards versus Carlos Prates. We have like Southpaw versus Southpaw violence here. I don't like Leon's headspace right now. I don't know if he can overcome that. And I feel like Prates is not an easy matchup, even if Leon Edwards shows up in good form. So I'm going to go with Prates' second round knockout. Chambrady versus Morales. Morales has never shown anything to me that tells me that he can deal with the level of like chain wrestling transitions, and especially the top game of Chambrady. Gotta pick the known quality here. Gotta pick Chambrady. Shevchenko versus Weili Zhang. I'm going with Weili. Gotta support the team. And the main event, Jack Della versus Islam Makhachev. Very interesting fight. One of the coolest fights that you can make in the sport right now. A lot of unknowns, of course, because Islam is moving up. So I'm thinking that Jack Della will be able to scramble and take over as the fight goes longer. So good fights here. The opener is like the hidden gem here, like the fight that no one is talking about, and it's actually a very good fight. Borshchev versus Camilo. Obviously, Chepe versus Pat Sabatini is crazy. Angela Hill versus Fatima Kline is going to be probably action-packed. Wellmaker versus Haddon is like the sleeper hit of the night for sure. Kopylov Rodrigues, action guaranteed. Dariush versus Saint-Denis is going to be ugly, but it's going to be action-packed for sure. And then you have like the big fights. So yeah, that's the pay-per-view. Is this a good one? I think so, man. I think this is a very good pay-per-view. I support it. And that's my thoughts overall, man. So yeah, thank you guys as always for catching me. This concludes the recorded part of the podcast, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Remember to join for the fight companion. We're going to have fun this Saturday, man.